Deep inner work refers to the process of introspection and self-exploration aimed at understanding and transforming one's inner thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, which was formed during our formative years. It often involves examining past experiences, identifying patterns of behaviors, and addressing unresolved issues that could very much be impacting our mental and overall well-being. For those of you who are new to doing the inner work, or for some of you who have an understanding of what inner work is, I would like to emphasize that doing the deep inner work is a tedious process and requires a long-term commitment in order for you to be able to achieve a sustainable transformation. And this isn't a process that can be fast-tracked by doing it in 3 days, 1 week, 1 month, or few months. There are 3 important parts when it comes to doing the deep inner work. Now, the first part is often about self-awareness, and this is where the theory comes into play, which helps our conscious mind to understand and process our past experiences, which further helps us to expand our self-awareness. And then the second phase is also known as the shedding phase or emotional release, and this is often the most painful process that comes in waves. And then finally, we have the third phase, which is the most important part of the entire process, which is the integration phase, which I will be talking about shortly in this video. Techniques may include various healing methodologies such as meditation, journaling, therapy, and other self-reflective practices such as alternative healing, which is part of my healing practices, as I find it to be the most effective and the most transformative with sustainable and lasting results. Inner work is done in stages as it encompasses various layers of healing, where we will come to face our shadow self. The shadow aspect of ourself refers to part of our personality that we may suppress, deny, or reject due to the conditioning that we have received through our caregivers since we were young. This concept was popularized by renowned psychologist Carl Jung, which encompasses traits, emotions, and desires that we consider undesirable or socially acceptable. The shadow can include feelings of anger, shame, jealousy, along with other deep-seated insecurities, as well as aspects of our identity that we may not fully acknowledge. In essence, the shadow aspect of ourselves is a mask that we wear in order to feel socially accepted, and we are not allowed to form our own identity because we were never allowed to explore and embrace our own individuality. Doing the deep inner work is likely one of the most challenging personal growth experiences that you can undertake in this lifetime, because we are required to face our inner demons and confront those demons with an open mind, something that many people are afraid of because it reveals a lot of pain and experiences that we have spent a lifetime avoiding. So when we start doing the inner work, we tend to revisit these experiences and we are forced to confront these emotions. However, most people do not know what to do with these emotions because we never had the tools and access to address it in a healthy way. However, the inner work has many layers and it is not a one-size-fits-all. In this video today, I am going to share with you the 7 stages of doing the deep inner work, and each one of this process is exceptionally important and you cannot afford to skip this. And this stages doesn't necessarily need to be done in order. However, the first 2 stages are extremely important in order for you to get started and for you to heal and transform your life completely. Now, if you are looking for support and if you want someone to guide you, I am more than happy to guide you through my healing practices which I have developed, which have worked for me, and I am confident that it will be able to transform your life in the same way it transformed mine. So if you are interested, feel free to book a call with me and we can get started on your healing and transformation journey. But for now, let's get right into the 7 integral part of doing the inner work. The first step is to understand your attachment style, and this is something that I've shared before in my previous videos, and if you have followed me on YouTube, you may have gotten this information. Now, this is an extremely powerful information to have, which allows you to understand your own behaviors and patterns, which further reveals why you do and feel the way you do. An important part of healing is to bring awareness to your conscious self as to why you experience certain emotions repeatedly, and to take away the guilt, the shame and frustration for feeling that way, because it often makes us feel inadequate, not good enough, or you just feel frustrated and guilty thinking that something must be wrong with me for feeling a certain way. Learning about your attachment style gives you perspective on how you came to develop these patterns as a first step to your healing. Now, just learning about it in theory isn't enough, which is why we have to integrate other practices in order for you to heal on a cellular level, and this is what I offer in my healing practices. Now, we take this information and then we start exploring the root cause of those trauma which is attached to this pattern that you have identified, and from there we gradually move forward to healing each one of these struggles that you have been attached to your whole life. Step number 2 is self-hypnosis, and this to me is by far the most effective and powerful transformation tool that we have access to, and when it is done right with a guided practice, you can almost heal some of your deepest traumas that you have carried with you your whole life. So now that an individual possesses some information of their behavior, now if you would allow them to self-introspect on their own patterns and how this has affected their past relationships, next we want to move on to getting to the root cause of the problem, why this happened to them, why this keeps happening, and what has caused them to behave in a certain way. So we get to identify the root cause of the problem through a self-hypnosis practice where we tap into your subconscious mind, which takes you all the way back to the core memory which caused the wounding. So this practice goes all the way back to the first ever time that you had experienced trauma, and we go through the process of reliving all those memories in our mind, acknowledge it, and to heal our inner child by offering reassurance and cutting off all these negative emotions that is attached to those memories, so you can finally have a clean slate to start again. Step number 3 is the emotional release, which is also known as the shedding process, and this is by far one of the most painful part of doing the inner work and healing from trauma, because the trauma that we have experienced remains trapped in our body, and for many people they often tend to carry trauma through their DNA that has been passed on without any healing. So the individual can carry very heavy emotions and trauma that are transgenerational and further exacerbated by their own trauma. Therefore, when we begin to do the deep inner work, a lot of painful and heavy memories and emotions would start bubbling to the surface, and this often takes a few days at a time. Sometimes it can even go up to a week in order for the body to purge these emotions. And emotional release, this phase of emotional release can take a toll on our physical body, which is why these practices must be controlled and done through a guided practice by someone who is experienced. So some of the common physical symptoms that you would experience during this stage is nausea, bloating, chronic fatigue, exhaustion, indigestion, inability to sleep due to heavy emotions, and also it's quite common to experience anxiety. However, these are temporary, and as much as this phase can be really uncomfortable, this is really an important part of the emotional release process, because we need to get all these trapped emotions that is stuck inside our body out, and that is going to happen through your physical body, and therefore it will take a toll on your body, and it is advisable to be done under supervision only. The fourth step is the famous mirror exercise. Now, the first two steps are really important to kickstart your healing journey. However, you will still be required to integrate the mirror exercise in your day-to-day life. So this can again be a complex process because it would require a certain level of awareness, and once you start becoming increasingly aware, you will be able to observe your own behavior and where it is coming from. And this is actually a milestone in your healing process when you're able to recognize whenever you are being triggered. So this is the part where the real work begins, when you choose to take accountability for your actions and you choose to consciously respond differently in the choices that you make in your communications. So the goal of mirror exercise is to enhance your self-perception, to boost your confidence, and most importantly, improve your communication skills that would allow you to understand and confront your own behaviors and feelings without pushing the blame to another person. So you are able to see yourself and you can hold yourself accountable whenever you notice that you are not showing up in the way that you are supposed to. So this takes blame away from another person. And as you begin to put this into practice, you will begin to notice how these patterns have been holding you back in different areas of your life, be it your career, your finances, and your relationships. And with the informed awareness that you have now, you would be able to train yourself to respond differently so that you can nurture and have a healthier relationship in many different areas of your life. Step number 5 is rewiring your subconscious belief. This practice is highly effective. However, it requires consistent effort, mindfulness, and the willingness to let go of outdated belief systems. Now, for example, let's say if you have always felt that you had never received love and support from your family, you want to change your internal belief by reaffirming, I am worthy of love. However, you have to believe that you deserve it. Now, for example, if you were raised by caregivers who only acknowledge or accepted when you excelled, when you perform, now your subconscious mind is trained to believe that you need to perform in order to gain acceptance and love from others. So we have to work on rewiring this conditioning which exists on a subconscious level. So to address this, we use various forms of affirmations as means to rewire our belief system, serving as a positive reinforcement that can gradually transform our internal perceptions of self-worth. And this is not exactly an instantaneous change, but it needs to be done regularly in order for you to be able to notice the difference. And this is something that I would teach in my practice as well. Step number 6 is embracing discomfort. You have to understand that committing to doing the inner work is a commitment of personal growth, and that means you will need to start making different decisions and different choices, some difficult ones that is going to push people away. You will begin to lose people that matters to you, but it ultimately comes down to choosing yourself. So what happens here is when you begin the process of inner work, you are essentially unlearning old patterns and limiting beliefs that has kept you stuck. That means the people you were aligned with were part of your inner circle that was based on your old conditioning, that was based on your old patterns. And as you begin to unlearn and disintegrate the old patterns, your thought process will begin to shift. But here, you are the one that is choosing this personal growth. They are not the same, they are not on the same path as you. And this change in your energetic frequency will begin to trigger them due to misalignment, because you are no longer operating from the old pattern that you were once familiar with. And these triggers will eventually cause a disharmony in the connection, where you reach a point where you just can't connect or relate to each other anymore because you are no longer in alignment with them. What most people don't understand is that your growth isn't going to necessarily trigger them to want to make that change. Your growth is your own personal unique journey, and it doesn't necessarily also make them a bad person. So it really comes down to choosing yourself. Discernment is required throughout this phase to acknowledge and understand that you are evolving as an individual, and sometimes that means it is necessary to make that difficult decision of cutting people off or walking away from certain people that is no longer in alignment with where you are heading towards. And this is a very complex process, because as humans we are wired for connections, and no one wants to walk away from someone that means a lot to them, someone that they truly love. But sometimes it is simply a necessary process and a choice that you have to make. This is difficult, but when you choose to lose people that no longer brings value to you, you can be sure that you will eventually attract people, new people who are more in alignment with the new you. And the last step is the integration phase, which I had talked about at the beginning of this video. The most crucial aspect of doing the inner work is the integration phase. Now, this is where we are confronted with real life challenges and familiar circumstances, sometimes even repeated patterns occurring, which provides us with an opportunity to respond differently and breaking away from old patterns that has kept us stuck. Now, the difference is that this time around, you are equipped with the emotional awareness and knowledge and tools that you have learned through your healing practices. Therefore, you will be able to recognize parts of you that needs to disintegrate. These events are often important lessons that is presented in our realities in the form of trigger, because we never truly know how much we have learned and how much we have healed from until we come face to face with reality, therefore offering us an opportunity to recognize how much of the inner work that we have done has helped us heal and release from our past conditioning. Now, we can also relate to this concept of learning in theory, and the integration phase is where you will need to implement everything that you have learned in a, let's say, classroom setting by putting it into practical work. And it's also important to note that this is an ongoing process where you will learn to set and hold healthy boundaries. You would learn how to regulate your emotions in a healthy way, and also have a more healthy, develop a more healthy, secure communication style that will begin to transform your life completely. And you would begin to notice that you are becoming this person that you would have never imagined possible. If you're feeling lost, you do not know where to start, and need some guidance on your healing journey, Release offers alternative healing, which adopts a curated and personalized approach that is aimed at primarily getting to the root cause of your trauma and working on healing those trauma on a cellular level. So if you would like to get started on your healing journey, feel free to book a call, book a session with me. And if you would like to know more about this course, feel free to click on the link below, which would provide you with more information on my services.